Here's a recap on what happened to Brianna. That's a burn mark. That's also a burn mark. There again, another healing sore. Knots on her head, bumps on her head. Here's more. Brianna was so happy to be found and back home. This is about a week after she had been released from the hospital. Here's something about what Brianna went through that I shared previously to YouTube. This is about the halfway houses and how they take people in. They take girls in, put them on drugs, prostitute them out if they don't get what they want out of the girls. Then they turn them into the psych wards and tell them that they were doing other things wrong. Like, is that what happened to my daughter? Why did Brianna go from being in Maine with me? I asked Gordon over to watch her for a couple days because he seemed to be too busy otherwise to help me get the water and plumbing going in the house like he said he was going to. Then he doesn't return her. He doesn't answer my calls. He puts her on the bus to get rid of her. His story doesn't add up to Brianna's story when she was coherent and told her story. So somewhere between the bus station on Kennedy Memorial Drive in Waterville to Massachusetts, somewhere something happened. All she can recollect, and she asks me and tells me what I want to know is, how did I end up on a plane? And she told me that it was somebody from the FBI that put her on a plane. So how did that happen? And she's still blurry and confused as to why she was in Daytona. I'm confused and blurred to it as well. It says that her mailing and everything was changed over. They coerced her into changing her mailing system over. She lost her Social Security disability in August, and nobody helped her with that. What about this Northeast Kingdom Mental Health Services, huh? Where are you in helping this client other than fall through the cracks? You were a conflict of interest. Obviously, that is Chris Mitchell, Desiree, and Tish. Everybody involved is a conflict of interest, right to your boss, TJ Donovan, due to the fact why? It's an obvious fact that you lured Brianna. We can go through the computer system and we can find out, as well as Brianna's phone system, how many times Desiree and Tish and Chris talked to Brianna and got her on a bus and sent her to Vermont. And they did not have housing for her. They did not have adequate shelter for her. They did not have food for her. They didn't have her medication set up for her. They had nothing. Nothing. But I did. And they took her away from that. And now Brianna was in a hospital again, the same fucking hospital, Rutland Regional Medical Hospital, that abused her from the months of June, July, and August. When she got out and she was so disoriented, she didn't even know her fucking name. She was found in a laundromat wandering around after hours. She was taken upstairs to the tenant, Jen. Upstairs over the laundromat in Island Pond took her in. And the next day, the postal carrier, Janine, in Island Pond, brought her to Maine because she knew that Brianna wasn't safe and she couldn't understand what was going on. I've shared all this information. So why is it that nobody's helping? Well, it's an obvious conspired organized crime, wouldn't you say? That's what I say. Because why is Brianna back in their care? She's being abandoned, neglected, and abused. Even the roadway inn on Woodstock Avenue was contacted by one of my angels, and she was hung up on. He told her not to call back. But when, thankfully, the Rutland corporal, he did go over and he checked Brianna's room and found that her room, he said, was in fine order. It was nice and neat and clean. So why is Brianna back in a psych ward? Is it because she was, shot up with those medications again? We know that she was shot up frivolously with 30-day dose of Haldol that put her in the hospital, overdosed her, nearly died, put in the hospital down in Florida, and then I got her back to health enough, though, thought she was healthy enough so that she could travel home. It took us days to get here. But in the meantime, just around the time that the state police called to tell me that my daughter was found. They burned my home down to make sure that I wasn't able to have a place to come home to. And then they told American Red Cross from the Anson Town office that I wasn't living there. Well, that's a fucking lie. And so that shit is all going to be taken care of. And when it's taken care of through this protection order for harassment and more, even if it is denied today, because they didn't answer, I didn't get the direct answer on Friday. I should have it today being Tuesday, as to whether we have to go for a hearing in order to get this protection from harassment acknowledged, or if they're going to grant it and then we have a hearing. But either way, there's going to be a hearing, and we're going to find out why my home was burned, why my daughter's back in the hospital, why she was lured from the state of Vermont, by the state of Vermont, from the state of Maine, and why nobody's done anything about it. Knowing that she was in a vulnerable state of mind. Because why? Because Northeast Kingdom Mental Health Services was telling her that they were going to help her with the things that they didn't. What they did do was tell her to call 211. And she kept on calling 211, knowing her medical condition, and they were neglecting her needs. That's a violation of her rights. And with all the violations that have been committed against me and my daughter, we have the right to be protected. And therefore, I'm waiting patiently for the courts to open. And I hope you all are waiting patiently to hear the outcome. And I hope you anticipate on listening and paying attention as we proceed, moving forward in finding, getting, and requesting justice, and seeing what can prevail. From the fact that this all starts with the state of Vermont. I've listed it, you've read it, you've heard it, and all we can do now is pray about it. Have a great day.